Hello, welcome back to Tbilisi for the second part of our Georgian programme. We've brought you here in front of the presidential palace and this glass and metal concert hall, one of the ultra-modern and for some ultra-controversial additions to the Georgian cityscape in recent years. Well, as Georgia looks into its future, it is looking increasingly green with a growing organic movement here. However, marrying Georgian traditional practices with organic ones hasn't always been easy. Our reporter Luke Brown has been finding out how it's been working out and why so many think it is worth it.
It's a crucial moment for the Papari Valley vineyard. This is the final inspection. After 3 years, the wine is converting to organic production. For the inspector, the difference between these vines and the neighbours is clear.
Yeah, it's chemical definitely, and probably applied fertilizers, because you see the color will be very intensive than if you compare it to this.
That proximity means Papari Valley will have to implement costly measures to meet the organic criteria.
They have to take their first 2 or 3 lines of vines, call it buffer zone, and don't mix the harvest from this field to the organic product. It's like economical loss for the producer.
The organic market in Georgia is still in its infancy. Nukri Kudadze, the owner of Papari Valley, has seen his neighbours slowly accept some of his ideas.
From the beginning, they were calling me mad, of course. But when my vine resisted the heat wave and drought last year, and my neighbors' vines were badly damaged, but then they tried my wine, and they valued it even more because they know how to judge wine here.
Organic wine is a return to the centuries-old roots of Georgian winemaking, reversing the Soviet-era focus of quantity over quality. Now Nukri wants to cash in on the new market. A third of his wine is for export, the rest for high-priced restaurants in Tbilisi.
It makes me happy to see that the young generation of Georgians is getting interested in organic and naturally produced wines. I'd even say there's a boom in Georgia at the moment for this kind of wine.
Organic's potential for growth is what attracted Nicolas Benyanidze to the market. His farm is the country's first organic milk producer. He sells to a Georgian wholesaler and local supermarkets. For now, though, it's not economically viable to depend entirely on Georgian buyers.
We've already survived 4 really hard years. But in reality, right from the beginning, it wasn't just about pure economic profit. It's about enthusiasm and innovation, which in the future we think will be profitable.
Nicolas may be confident that the market will grow, but for now, organic is too expensive for most Georgian consumers. In response, many producers turn to exports. This cooperative of hazelnut farmers is pooling knowledge and resources to boost their chance of success.
We're a bit old, but we still consider ourselves like pioneers. We're the first to get into organic hazelnut production in Georgia.
Tamaz Gabedeva helped found the co-op in 2013. Now it has 57 members. Their produce is sold almost exclusively to European customers.
The economic situation is difficult in Georgia, and that's why we go to the European market. It has bigger demand, the market is bigger, and it's better for us.
The cooperative's machinery was largely funded by Elkana, a local NGO that has helped implement European projects promoting organic farming. They've helped 500 farmers convert to organic nationwide, many swayed by the higher prices they receive for their crops.
The organic hazelnuts provide increased income for the farmers. Gradually, the farmers are beginning to understand those kinds of benefits. So, little by little, the conversion to organic production is making progress.
Despite those efforts, there is still a long way to go. Organic produce in Georgia still only represents less than 1% of the country's farmland.
We're now at the Agriculture Ministry with the Minister himself, Levan Davitashvili. Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
First, I want to talk about the overall involvement of Europe in Georgia with this association agreement, all the many programmes that come with it. What does your government want from this association with Europe?
Important part of our association agreement is Deep and Comprehensive Free Trade Area Agreement, which covers also trade aspects, and also that means that we have to somehow approximate our food safety legislation to European legislation. Bringing these new standards of food safety will definitely increase competitiveness of Georgian agri-food products and agri-food trade in international global markets.
Often within the European Union, European standards, regulations are seen as something unhelpful, interference that make life harder for producers or businesses. Is it ever seen that way here in Georgia?
Of course, sometimes production is more expensive, but at the end they can win with being more competitive, and this should be explained and communicated.
Now, there are two separatist regions within Georgia, Abkhazia and South Ossetia, that are mostly excluded from the European programmes. We understand that there's a sort of hope that the leaders and people in those regions might see that European assistance is helping the rest of Georgia, and that could help bring those regions back into Georgia to be more integrated again. Is that something you believe could happen?
Well, definitely we do believe this can happen, but we need to demonstrate that we are succeeding in our progress, and also with the EU integration. This can demonstrate, this can convince people that being with Georgia and Georgians, this is the right way.
The association agreement hasn't been in place for very long, but are you at this point seeing any sign that that's happening?
Of course, it's still early to make full assessment of the advantages of this association agreement, but we see the very positive trend.
Now, you personally have a background very much in wine, which is a huge part of Georgian culture. How big a part do you think wine can play in your country's development?
We are proud of having invented wines and we contributed this nice thing to world civilization. It's also important for tourism because many travelers, they discover Georgia is wine producing country. So it's like going to Jerusalem for winemakers, coming to Georgia, the best place of wine.
It's a great advert for Georgian wine. In terms of exports into the EU, are you not worried that there are already these huge wine producers, France, Italy, Spain, to name but three?
Well, that's even more exciting and interesting because in Europe we find consumers who understand wine, and it's easier to go to that places. Of course, we have different destinations where we target our wine sales, like Southeastern Asia, which is a growing wine market, but Europe as well, because, as I said, they're educated customers who can appreciate different styles, different wines, different stories. So we are optimistic.
All right, well, we like to end on an optimistic note. Levin Davitashvili, thank you very much for talking to us on Talking Europe.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, looking back into the European Union now, farmers there wondering if they are going to have to change their own practices in the next few years. A widely used but controversial pesticide, glyphosate, could be banned within the next few years in the EU. But what's there to replace this controversial product? Our reporter Anaïs Guerra has been asking that very question.
He's now a market gardener growing organic produce. But David Lebar used to be a regular user of the weed killer glyphosate.
You can see the soil isn't treated. Over there are some weeds growing, but that's no problem. We leave them there. So the only spraying we do is on the leaves directly. We have a garden that's not sterilized. We let time do its work. Not everyone can do that.
The EU is looking to ban glyphosate by 2022. But David has already taken the plunge. He now uses Bio3G products. Here, they're looking for organic solutions on a much bigger scale.
Here we have a cultivation room, which allows us to control every condition: temperature, humidity, and light.
Using biostimulants and improving the soil quality, alternatives that have a future in the eyes of this entrepreneur, but it's no quick fix.
Obviously, I'm asked every 6 months whether I've found a replacement for glyphosate. I say in due course, but not yet.
Here we've invested in a key foliar biostimulant, which lets us reduce pesticide use by 15 to 20%.
So far, there's no single substitute for glyphosate. For the farmers who are used to spraying the notorious weed killer, they fear that whatever the alternative, it will be more restrictive and more expensive.
The trick is to find the balance between the completely natural product and the chemical product, but at an appropriate dose which allows for no side effects. It's a bit similar to medicine.
But to completely go without glyphosate could be expensive, especially during the transition period.
It would mean investing in staff, but in the end, part of the cost of this investment would be offset by ending spending on glyphosate use.
Buying more pesticides, mechanical weeding, vegetational cover, or biostimulation, all are possible alternatives. France has commissioned a report from its Agricultural Research Institute to find something to fill the gap, but an economic obstacle remains: imports through the back door from outside the EU.
Unfair competition from countries importing foodstuffs into the EU that were once treated with glyphosate is a difficult issue. It's hard to detect glyphosate, so it will come down to official specifications and strengthening bilateral agreements.
The debate is continuing in Brussels, where a commission on pesticides has been put to work following the release of the Monsanto papers. Here, two camps clash: the pro-industry groups versus those campaigning for more environmentally friendly farming. Both hope to avoid unfair competition from outside the single market.
The rules of third countries on organic practices need to conform to European criteria and standards. This question has been raised because member states have the freedom to decide to ban molecules developed by glyphosate.
But the European Union is not on a full-on offensive against the lobbies yet. On the contrary, the Commission has renewed glyphosate's license for another 5 years, as well as licenses for glyphosate-resistant MG crops for 10 years.
Well, we've talked an awful lot already in this programme about wines, winemaking. So we thought it was time that we got up close and personal with some vines, with a vineyard and a lady who makes wine. Very nice to meet you, Keta Van Berishvili.
Hello.
Hi there, across the vine. We're in your vineyard. There's a family vineyard. Can you tell us what kind of wine you make here?
So we have 3 different grape varieties in our vineyard. It is Saperavi, the red one, Arkatsiteli and Mtswane. But we make some different blends of these 3.
And it's natural wine that you make here. What does that actually mean, natural wine?
Natural wine making is just to interrupt as less as we can in the nature. It means that we just help the vines to survive. And we are not focused on taking a big quantity of grapes. And so we use just one treatment. And in the juice, no add. It's just what it is.
I understand that in Georgia, winemaking is traditionally very much only for men. You're obviously a woman. Your brand is called Go-Go Wine, which means girl wine. Is that right? So what brought you into winemaking?
Just a love for wine and our family kind of tradition, because in our family there were wine growers and musicians. I'm not a musician.
So it had to be wine?
Yeah.
Well, it feels like a good moment to maybe go and taste some of your wine.
Let's go.
Okay, great. So, Keta Van has taught me 2 new Georgian words. Marani, which is where we are.
The cellar.
Okay, the cellar. And this beneath our feet is the kvevri, which is?
Qvevri is a clay jar which is buried under the ground and which is very good for fermenting wine and to carry it for months and even for years.
Okay, well, should we go and have a look at the other side?
Yes, so here we press the grapes
with your feet?
With the feet. The name of this is Satsnacheli. And we take the juice and we put in the Qvevri. And now we can make some tasting.
Okay, with pleasure. Before we taste the wine, though, the European Union is interested in supporting small businesses like yours. Do you have any European backing at the moment?
We have a support of a German government, and the organization is called GIZ.
What would be helpful for you?
The biggest things are, for example, the tools that helps us to produce wine, because we do almost everything by hand.
Looking to the future then, what's your dream for your business?
My dream is more people who will love natural wine and drink natural wine.
Okay, well, I think we ought to start right now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. And cheers to you as well. Thanks very much for watching our programme here in Georgia. We hope to see you again very soon for more European adventures on France 24. Cheers. Okay, cheers.
Cheers.
Gaumertus.
Ce qui fait le cœur de France 24 en espagnol se trouve aussi sur le numérique. Retrouvez-nous sur notre site et interagissez avec nous sur les réseaux sociaux.
It's been a year now that France 24 broadcasts in Spanish. Thanks for watching us.
Avec France 24 en espagnol, il y a 4 chaînes France 24. Nous sommes fiers de cette réussite. Bon anniversaire.
أتمنى لكم معنا سنة سعيدة وعيد ميلاد سعيد.
Joyeux anniversaire.